Joe, were you here at UW-Madison during the COVID? You probably were here for a few semesters during COVID, right?
I was, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That was interesting.
Yeah, this brings back some flashback memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I know there's still a number of courses that are taught fully online. I just really I don't know. I just feel like I miss being there in person, but I also know if I take my time and get better with this thing that I'd rather recover correctly than try to rush things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 100%.
yeah, so we have 35 people online. There are a total of 70 people, about actually 69 people enrolled in class. So I'm just going to give this a couple of minutes. I do appreciate those of you who showed up on time. I hope everybody's having a outstanding semester. I will tell you, be careful out there on ice, be careful out there on stairs. You never know when your life could be sort of like changed, at least flipped upside down for a few months, as I have experienced here recently. Um, yeah, so it's a interesting time of the semester where things are really heated up now. We're a full month in, actually a little bit more than a month into the semester, and I know things are stressful, especially those of you who are going to be graduating soon and like that rush to get everything done, especially if you have a heavy course load and those kinds of things. I'm going to give it till 12:07. I normally don't do this when we're in person. I usually begin promptly at 12:05. We'll go ahead and just give it an extra minute or so just to make sure we get as many people on as possible. There are definitely rewards for showing up for class. There will be a fair number of in-class assignments where you can only really complete the assignment for that module by being there in person. So I really, really strongly encourage attendance. And we'll go through the syllabus. So I'll talk a little bit about how those things are graded and those sorts of things. Joe, am I good on sound? Are you able to hear me okay? All right. Yeah, so it's 12:07. I'm going to go ahead and get things started. Again, I appreciate the fact that so many people on that second email that I sent out. Thank you for responding on that. The first Canvas announcement that I sent out to 67 people in total, I had one person respond, which is actually a really good reminder to me because I know sometimes Canvas announcements don't get seen. So anything that's important coming up, I will make sure to send out a separate email. The other thing that I didn't do correctly with that one email that I sent that everybody responded to is I put everybody's name in the to line, which is kind of a little bit of a no-no. So I'm going to make sure to put you in the blind CC in the future. That way you don't all see each other's email addresses. If you all want to exchange email addresses on your own, that's okay, but I'm not supposed to be the person doing that as the professor. So I do apologize for that. I don't think it's a huge issue, but probably something I shouldn't have done. Anyway, let me give you a quick bit of background in terms of like where I'm at in class. And I know that all of you have so many things going on in your life. This is probably somewhat secondary, but we're going to obviously do today online. And then I'm going to be posting later this afternoon the content for Wednesday. So we will not be meeting on Wednesday either. My wife is a retired nurse, and I had told her by next Monday, I'm going to be able to get in the car and drive and go to class. Monday will be March 10th. So at that point, I haven't actually had my surgery yet. I'm still in this, I'm all wrapped up in a brace. My surgery will be on March 5th. So March 10th will be 10 days out. And the doctor, the surgeon, and everybody else is like, yeah, dude, good luck with that. You're going to be on some pretty heavy meds. And so I'm going to kind of play that by ear. We may have to do next week virtually as well. And I really hope to be back after that. The week after that would be March 17th. I'm back on the road. I think March 19th, right after class, I've got to run and go someplace. So I'm kind of hanging loose a little bit in terms of schedule. So be watching your email. I really hope you're all okay with doing virtual, as we were talking about right before we got started here. This for me is not ideal. I really miss the face-to-face contact. Zoom for me feels a little bit cold and a little bit like distant, but I think for right now, it's the best we can do. And I keep reminding myself, if I miss the first 2 weeks of class, it's an 8-week class. So we're still going to be 75% of the class time or we're in the same room together. So do bear with me, but also watch for the communication. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, I will be kind of monitoring the chat window. Just want to make sure I have that called up here. So any questions that come up, feel free to throw them in the chat. There's no such thing as a bad question. In fact, if you've got a question of me, I'm sure that there's probably 5 or 7 other people in the class. As I mentioned, we have a total of about 67 to 69 students in the class, which makes me really happy. I think last semester in the spring of 2024, I think we were down to around 50. So we're now drawing students from places other than the biological systems engineering program. Last semester, we had people from ME, chemical engineering, biomedical, and mechanical. So it's kind of exciting to see that this course is taking off. And it is very applicable across all of the engineering disciplines, as well as other sciences. I've also had students in this class from business and from computer science and data science. So we still have a couple of open slots. It's probably not too late to join the class. Encourage you to do so. So you all should be able to see my slides. And what I'm going to do, I've got about roughly 30 minutes of content. I'm going to cruise through, kind of give you a little bit of a further introduction about myself. And I'm especially going to go a little bit deeper about the assignments for this week, the syllabus, and some other details related to how this course is structured. So hopefully you're good with that. If you're tight on time or anything like that, I'll probably have you out of here probably no later than 12:41-ish, and maybe even a little bit before that time. So career management for engineers, BSE 308. Again, BSE is biological systems engineering. I'm Shutsky. I'm John Shutsky, the course instructor. I'm a professor. I'm going to talk about this a little bit. I'm also an extension specialist. So I do a lot of traveling. And again, I'll talk more about some of the work that I do here in a few minutes. So what I'm going to do, introduction, talk about the syllabus, weekly expectations. We have 8 weeks of class. And so there are 16 modules. There's 2 modules per week, and each module has an associated homework assignment. That's the weekly assignments, the weekly expectations. There are also 3 what I call big assignments. These are, and I'm going to mention this about 4 times, the big assignments are required. Even if you've racked up enough points at the end of the semester to get your B or your AB or whatever it is you're shooting for, I still need those assignments to be turned in. And again, I'll go into a little bit of detail and I'll talk briefly about grading. That's a big part of grading, is that you've got to get those in. And even if you've got enough points, you'll get an incomplete at the end of the semester if you've not completed the 3 big assignments. So here's a little bit of an introduction about me. So I have been around a while. I'm a Purdue alum. I graduated from what is now called the Agricultural and Biological Engineering Department at Purdue. For those of you not familiar with Purdue, we're all in the Big 10, right? With the big, whatever we are now, the Big 20 or 17. So Purdue's a Big 10 school. It's located in West Lafayette, Indiana. I grew up in Indiana, by the way. I grew up on a farm, but way up in Northwest Indiana, not far from Chicago, actually, just south of Lake Michigan. After I got my PhD back in the late 1980s, I went to work in industry. And I worked for the Illinois Farm Bureau Insurance Company. I was headquartered in Bloomington, Illinois, which is kind of like right in the center of the state. But I lived in Champaign-Urbana. So I lived on a Big Ten, right off of a Big Ten campus. My wife was a nursing student there. And I worked remotely, which back then kind of wasn't a thing. But my remote work included like 1 day a week in the home office. And then I was on the road. So I did a ton of traveling. I had counties all over the state of Illinois. And after about 14 months in my position, I got called into the home office in Bloomington. And I actually thought I was going to get laid off because the company was like doing some restructuring. And I had a close friend who had been let go as a result of some downsizing. And instead they said, this is kind of a secret, like this has not been made public yet, but we have just purchased our counterpart companies in Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Alaska, Arkansas, and Arizona. And you've done a good job here in Illinois. We want you to travel out there and build something similar, which was like, I was still in my 20s. It was like a huge amount of responsibility. So I got to travel all over, spent a lot of time in particular in Oregon and Washington. And one of the recommendations I have for all of you as an engineer is don't be afraid to move around. It can be a little bit sort of disorienting. If you're close with your family, sometimes it's scary to go away from mom and dad and like be, clear across the country. But it is something that will really, really help you grow. And you'll learn so much. After that, I went to work at the University of Minnesota. I was on, it's called the Biosystems and Bioproducts Engineering faculty there for quite a long time, almost 2 decades, about 17 and a half years in total. A position very similar to what I do now here today. I came to Wisconsin back in 2008. I was a little bit hesitant. I knew a little bit about UW-Madison. I'd spent some time on campus. The Badgers were obviously like this fierce rival of the Gophers, and we could like never quite compete at the same level. So I came here to a football game. That was part of their recruiting strategy. I think I saw him play Northern Illinois University. And when we walked into the stadium and we saw it jump around, it's like, oh my God, Kate, my wife's Kate, we got to do this. If I get an offer, we've got to come here. So I came here in 2008 to be an administrator. And that was work that was really interesting. Again, one of the things that we're going to talk about in this semester is you're going to have lots of different opportunities throughout your career to make changes and moves. And it can be scary. It can also be exciting, and it can certainly be very rewarding. Came back to my home department here in 2016. So that's been that's almost 9 years ago now, and came back to teach and do the kind of work that I do now. The majority of my work, as I mentioned earlier, is actually connected to extension. So the university has something called the Extension Service. And what we do is we take all of the research that I and other people create, and we extend it out into communities and industry and the different people who we work with. So I'm on the road a lot. Normally, I would do this lecture in person. We'd be over there in Engineering Hall, and then I'd take off and go, I'm not even sure where I would have been today, but do a lot of traveling in my work. My work is focused on using engineering and design principles to reduce risk. So a lot of what I do is around safety injury prevention, which is, yeah, kind of ironic that I fell on the stairs of my house and wrecked my leg, my quadricep muscle. But farming, agriculture, the food industry is it's a very dangerous industry. The highest death rate, if you look at the fatality rate due to occupational injuries, it is the highest in agriculture. So I try to use engineering principles to make farms safer, more healthy. Part of what I do is also connected to the health and well-being of workers. What you see here in this slide, I want to actually just make sure that I am recording. Yes, we're recording. What you see in this slide is an aerial view of a manure storage lagoon. It's basically like a big pond. What you see, it kind of looks like a racetrack. So it's a big oval, but that's actually a storage lagoon. It's about 1.5 acres. And there was a man who was out working in early spring morning up near in Portage County, Wisconsin, which is up around, I think it was in Amherst, if I'm not mistaken, up in that part of the state. Very early morning in August, we had a thermal inversion where it was one of those really cold mornings after several very hot days. Bottom line is he began to agitate this liquid livestock manure. In this case, it was beef cattle, beef steers, and he was overcome by hydrogen sulfide and died right there on the spot. Actually, he passed out. He passed out. He was working alone. Nobody was there to kind of pull him out of the situation. Interestingly, his cell phone flew out of his pocket because he was right at the edge of the lagoon and it went flying back. They actually found the cell phone a couple of years later. It had been sucked up with the manure and spread out in the field. And it was actually his father who found the phones. So we did, I'm going to call it like a CSI style investigation. And then we made recommendations to try to make sure we prevent and mitigate these kinds of things in the future. I'm actually going to show you some moving things here, a little video. What this is an autonomous weeder. Let me actually go back and stop that. That's an autonomous weeder, a robotic weeder. So in agriculture, we are seeing a huge, first of all, there's a huge labor shortage. It is really difficult to get workers because the work is perceived as being a dull, dirty, dangerous. We talk about the 3 big Ds, dull, dirty, and dangerous. So a lot of the work in agriculture is being automated. Anything from milking robots that are milking dairy cows. A lot of work right now going into autonomous tractors and harvesters. And in this particular case, this is out in California. Let me start the video back up. This thing is weeding, and you see the light curtain going back and forth. And after that light curtain has passed, you see the little dots, those little kind of flashes of light. Those are weeds that are being burned by a laser beam that is contained in the robot. And so what we're doing is we're replacing with this machine roughly 24 workers, and a farmer can order, it's kind of like a subscription service. The weeder's going to be brought out, set up, put on rows, and monitored during the course of a day. And we're taking one machine and we're replacing essentially 24 or more workers. And hopefully we're going to be doing it safe. So a lot of my work is about the safety of machines like this, whether they're robots, autonomous tractors, milking equipment. And we also have big safety opportunities because if we can replace human labor with robotic labor, we also increase the potential to reduce exposure for human beings. So that's the cool laser beam. That's a spinach field, by the way. That's what you see. So a lot of my work is focused on like the new forms of digital agriculture. That includes AI. That includes things like being able to use smartphone apps, computers, again, autonomous vehicles and other vehicle features to improve safety with sensors and data collection and those kinds of things. I've published several papers now on applications of, in particular, multimodal large language models. So that includes the souped up versions of ChatGPT and Claude and some of the other new models that are out there for improving safety and also for other applications in the agricultural workspace. a lot of potential there. And that's something that's actually contained. I go into quite a bit more detail in my second lecture, where there's all these really cool opportunities to apply computers, AI, digital sensors, data science, and those kinds of things in agriculture, not only to improve safety, but to like feed a growing global population. And again, that's in lecture number 2, module number 2, that'll be posted at the end of the day today. I do mention, so this is a little bit of a teaser. I do want you to complete assignment for module 1.1. That's for right now. This is due on Tuesday, and I ask you to give me a little bit of information about yourself. So I recorded a little sample. One of the things I'd like to do is tell me something that's interesting about yourself, something that I'll remember. A hobby, a sport, something you like to do, maybe something that's a little bit unusual and memorable. That's always really helpful. And also, I'm asking you in the assignment, you'll be posting that on the discussion tool. So that little video, I'll talk about it more in just a second, but I want you to record that probably 2 to 3 minutes. And then hopefully you have a chance to look at your other students. Anyway, my one interesting thing, I think I talked about this a little bit in my sample video, is I love music. I love all kinds of music, but I love like Americana music, or in this case, this is the Blue Ox Music Festival, which is up by Eau Claire, just outside of Eau Claire. Like if I could be any place on the planet right now, it would be there. And on a day like what you see here with the sunshine, no snow, no ice, no wind. I'm not going to point to it. I see my red Badger hat because I'm in that picture that obviously was shot with a drone, but I'm really into music. And then the sort of outdoor space that surrounds things like music festivals. So let's talk a little bit about the class, right? So that's really kind of why you're here today. Why is this class important? I will tell you, I have absolutely no doubt every single one of you who graduate in an engineering, a science, a business, computer science, data science, no matter what you do when you leave UW-Madison, I have no doubt about your technical skills. Even if you end up graduating, you just barely eke out graduation with your GPA, I still know as an engineer, you will have the engineering abilities that you need. That includes all the fun stuff, the math, the physics, the heat transfer, the thermodynamics. Joe, you're taking a course right now in like sort of applied like thermo and like doing modeling of ventilation systems. I have no doubt when you graduate, you're going to have those skills. But what ends up happening is when students end up struggling in their profession, in their life, in their career, in some cases in their relationships, it's because they maybe haven't thought enough about some of the other stuff. And that includes things like your money, that first job offer. It also includes your health, making sure you're taking care of yourself, thinking about not only your physical health, but also your mental health. So we're going to talk about these things. We're going to talk about personal branding, developing kind of a reputation. And I believe that's so important because as you get older and as you get more experience, you will develop a reputation. You will have a network of people so that when these changes in your career happen, you'll have really cool opportunities. So how do you think about that? How do you kind of curate it and make it happen in a purposeful way? So that's a lot of what this class is about. It's about relationships. It's also about staying up to speed. So things are happening really quickly. And I talk about this in that second lecture, module 1.2. Technology is just advancing so quick. And if you think like, well, we haven't seen anything yet, wait till we get to where we're in the area of artificial general intelligence, where computers are able to program themselves and do a lot of the things we would normally be required to do as human beings. So how do you keep up? Like, how do you learn? How do you make lifelong learning kind of a priority? And I'll tell you, like, YouTube, it's awesome. My father passed away a couple of years ago. Even my dad was really into learning things on YouTube. And so we now have this whole set of like learning opportunities, but it can also be super overwhelming. There's so much out there. How do we stay up to speed as change happens in a way where you stay relevant and valuable and where you have good outcomes as things happen and change in your life? And that includes all the way up to retirement. So I was thinking about this. I kind of practiced a little bit this morning. And most of you are probably, I'm guessing, between 19 and 24 years old. We may have a few people that are pushing into their 30s. Always have a couple of older students in the class. Retirement will be here in the blink of an eye. You think like, yeah, if I retire at age 60 and I'm 20 now, that's 40 years. That happens so fast. And you have to be planning, and you got to be planning now, because the seeds that you plant now, the investments that you make now, because of the special nature of compound interest, are the dividends that you're going to be able to use in the future. So how do you think about that? How do you plan for that? And by the way, plan, I keep saying plan, plan, plan. I really do believe if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail, which is something that Ben Franklin said. There's also a famous quote by General Eisenhower, who was one of our heroes back in World War II, organized all of the things connected to D-Day. He was our president for a period of time, and he was a big planner. And the other thing that I will tell you is things don't always go according to plan, right? Like I said, I didn't plan to fall down the stairs 2 weeks ago. So there's a whole bunch of crap that I am now having to like shift around. But because I'm a big picture planner, like I know what those things are in the future, how I'm going to move them around. That makes things so much less stressful. And when you have a plan, even though that plan may not go exactly according to the script that you've laid out, that framework can be so, so very helpful. So we'll talk about that during the course of the semester. I'm going to say planning and also goal setting. I'm going to have you in your final big assignment to set some goals. I call them SMART goals. You've probably heard of SMART goals before. So that will be a big kind of focus for what we do in this semester. So I'm not going to call things up here on Canvas. I know you all know how to do that. The syllabus material, I believe, is in module 1.1. I'm really careful with my syllabus. I do redo it every semester. Just a few reminders. I think these are things that are probably the most important. 8-week course. It's pretty intensive. It's only 1 credit, but because we're cramming everything into 8 weeks, it's going to feel like a 2-credit class. And there's a lot of work even for a 1-credit class. So it's going to feel pretty busy. I really, really hope that you don't see this as busy work. What I'm trying to do is when we present information, I want you to apply it to sort of everyday practical, real world kinds of activities and things that you'll be doing either now or in the future. I would say to plan on about 4 to 6 hours a week. That includes the in-class time. Doesn't include traveling back and forth to class, but you're going to have the module assignments. Those will typically take about an hour each. And then I've also built in a little bit of time for you to work on those 3 big projects throughout the semester. I've got a lot of speakers. So I really do, Joe as a TA helping me out with this class, more than half the class is external speakers. And I take this really seriously. Like I try to find really awesome speakers who represent the different types of things we're trying to teach, the different objectives for each of the different modules. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I kind of rotate speakers out every semester based on student evaluations. I'm always looking for good speakers who represent community, financial, personal branding and relationship building. And then obviously there's a lot of engineering things that are embedded in as well. In terms of contacting me, my email actually works the best. And I do mention this on my video that I recorded there for the module 1.1 assignment, shutsky@wisc.edu. You may also find me at john.shutsky@wisc.edu. The one thing I do ask, just like all of you, I get a ton of emails every day. I get close to between 200 and 300 emails a day. So I would ask that you put a subject in there that has like something about BSE 308. During the teaching semester, I do prioritize student emails. Those of you who emailed me knowing what the plan was for today, thank you. I'm actually going to go back and read all of those just to make sure that I didn't miss any questions. But if you do have questions, again, that's really the best way to get in touch with me. I'm also, when I'm back mobile and I'm not limping around with a giant brace on my leg and I'm able to move without too much pain, I'm more than happy to meet with you. I usually will have a few minutes of time after every class. So sometimes I'll walk back to the department with students, or if somebody wants to go grab coffee, typically after class is not a bad time to try to catch me. And otherwise, if you want to schedule something, I'm super happy to do that. It could be in person. It could also be Zoom as well. Again, I'm just going to pause here for a second. If anybody has any questions so far, go ahead and drop them in the chat window. And I also realize I've got 8 minutes because I told you that I'd be done by 12:41. Okay, here's the grading. So as I mentioned, we have 16 modules. So for example, module 1.1 is the Monday for week 1. Module 1.2 is the module for the Wednesday of week number 1. So there's 2.2, 3.2, etc. Those are all Wednesdays. The assignment should take you about an hour, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. The one that I'm asking you to do for session 1.2 is going to be a little bit longer, so I'm giving you an extra day. Their content application, usually what I do is if I do a lecture on Monday, then the assignment is due on Tuesday night, 24 hours plus, because I give you until 11:59 p.m. on Tuesday night. If you are late, I do significantly discount. And when I say if you're late, if you're at 12:01, I'm probably not going to take a point off. But if you're at 12:05 the next afternoon, I'm going to take 5 points off for every day or partial day after that. Some are due, as I said, in class. So I really, really want to incentivize and reward you showing up in person or on Zoom for classes. Again, the first couple of weeks might be by Zoom. Each of the assignments is going to be different. So make sure you read the instructions. Some you're going to turn in a document. Some you're going to post to a discussion group. And another version, I'll have you post to a discussion group and maybe make some comments on other students' posts that they put up. And so just make sure you follow the instructions. And if there is a rubric associated with the assignment, you will be fine. By the way, I should say on these, you'll see this in the syllabus. So 8 weeks times 2, there's 16 assignments. Each one is worth 10 points. And I count the 14 highest. So there are a total of 140 points associated with these assignments. If you're freaked out because you didn't show up for class and you missed 10 points and there's no makeup assignment, that's okay because you'll be able to drop those top 2. And usually people end up doing that. We end up having to drop a couple because you got zeros for whatever reason. The 3 big assignments are pretty carefully described in the syllabus. So I'm not going to go through a lot of detailed information. They are, first of all, a resume. The resume assignment, like this is really important. I've had over the last 2 semesters, a handful of students who I know went from getting 0 contacts on LinkedIn, Indeed, job fairs, career fairs. They're sending out resumes and they're getting no responses to, they clean their resume up. They follow the format that Christina Vac will talk about next week. And suddenly everything they send out is getting a hit. So the resume assignment, really important. It's got 3 parts. There's a draft, there's a peer review, and then there's your final resume. Number 2 is a social media makeover. Again, many of you probably have a LinkedIn site. So what I'm asking you to do, or will ask you to do, one of our modules will go through some best practices with LinkedIn. I want you to get your LinkedIn up and polished. And I want you to get some things posted, pictures and content and those kinds of things. So that's the second big assignment. The last one is a long-term career plan with some goals. And again, all 3 of those have to be submitted in order for you to get the credit for the class, to get your grade for the class. And obviously, if not, you'll receive an incomplete. I think I have 3 more slides. Your assignment for the first module for this is actually what I'm doing right now here as we speak is module 1.1. So go to the module 1.1 and you're going to find an assignment on Canvas. I want you to create a short video. What's short? 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Don't make it like mine. I went too long. Maybe not a surprise. About a 2.5 to 3 minute video. Please use the Canvas tools to record your video. It can be really difficult for us to grade them if you do something on your phone and then upload it. So when you go to the Canvas discussion tool, you'll have the opportunity to record it within Canvas. When you record your video, make sure that you give it enough time to render and to upload. If you do a 3-minute video, that can take as long as 15 minutes. So make sure, don't get too impatient. If you stop and it says it's uploading it, trust the process, but do verify that your video has been uploaded. Here's what I'm asking for. This should only take you, maybe you end up having to do 2 takes, right? So this should take you less than 10 minutes. I would like for you to give me your name. Please help me with the pronunciation. Like, I really like to pronounce people's names correctly. And some of you have some difficult names. I've already run into that. I'd like you to talk a little bit about the program you're in, whether you're BSE, if you're BSE, what track are you studying in, if you're in mechanical or civil or biomedical. Tell me a little bit about like what you're doing with your academic program. I'd also like you to tell me what you hope to learn from this class in particular. Again, one interesting like fact or thing that'll help me to remember you, a little bit of background, maybe where you're from. I also tend to remember people's hometowns of all things. And then maybe one question that you have about the class. And I will do my best to watch every single video, give you some feedback. If there are questions that are coming up frequently, I'll make sure that I get that out to the whole class. But I think that that will be helpful to clear any things up. So that will be due Tuesday night, 11:59. The assignment for module 1.2, though, will be due on Friday night because it's a little bit more complicated and it's going to involve a little bit more thinking, a little bit more creativity. So I'm going to give you an extra 24 hours on that one. I just have 2 more slides. I know I've got 2 minutes based on what I told you. Academic integrity. I expect you to do your own work. I do see a lot of like recycling of things in other courses, assignments, and those sorts of things. But I really am looking for good quality, original work. Be honest. Also, if you have questions about assignments or whatever, always err on the side of over communicating. I'm also happy to work with you if you have any special, requirements based on ability or disability. I'm more than happy to work with you on that. I've heard from a few of you so far. Diversity and inclusion. I'm going to tell you right now, with all of the political things that are happening in our country, it's really difficult for a professor to talk about diversity and inclusion. I do have a statement in my syllabus. That's the sort of standard statement that is in all of the syllabi. I guess that's the plural for syllabus. They're in all the syllabi for all different courses, but I guess I view diversity and inclusion a little bit different. So in this class, we have people from all different cultures and backgrounds. We have city people and rural people. We have people from different states. We have people from different countries who speak a language other than English as their first language. Different cultures, different ethnicities, different sexual orientations and gender orientations. I value that. And the reason I value that is because in engineering, we need to be thinking out of the box. We need to be creative. And I really do believe that it's at that interface where different cultures and different ideas and different ways of thinking come together. That's where the kind of magic happens. So that's my statement on diversity and inclusion. Like, I want to embrace the differences that we have in our class because I think in the real world workplace, you will be doing that. And people who work in those kinds of environments will prosper. Last thing, it's 12:41 right now. We're obviously in the world of generative AI. And I know that some of the assignments in this class really lend themselves well to throwing a prompt into Chat GPT, cutting and pasting, and putting that into your assignment. I am not going to tell you, no, don't do that. That would be foolish of me. Like, I've been around the block a few times. If you use generative AI, and I actually encourage you to do so, use it as a tool, use it as an assistant. When I use AI to help me write, I think of it as like I've got this little expert sitting next to me or on my shoulder or whatever. And it's a way to kind of go back and forth with ideas, help me think of titles, help me brainstorm, help me improve this paragraph. Give me some other examples of these ideas that I have. What I would ask that you do is when you do use it, tell me how you're using it. Because I really would enjoy learning how are students using this as an assistant, as a tool. And the reason why I think that's so important, yeah, there's the whole issue of academic integrity. Yeah, totally. That's really important. Original work is really important. But I know that out in the real world, you're going to be using these tools. And so I want you to be using them critically with a critical eye. I want you to be using them ethically and appropriately. And one of the best ways to do that is to say, yeah, I had it help me brainstorm a few sections. Actually, the assignment that is due Friday is a perfect place to use, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot or whatever. Some people are using Perplexity. That's another one you might want to check out. But again, just disclose it. I don't want to end up putting an assignment, cutting and pasting it into a detector. I know that those are not super reliable, but if you put them in 4 different detectors, there's a near 100% reliability in terms of AI detection. That's what I don't want to have happen, is that like everything you do is just put into a model and cut and paste it. Use it as a tool, use it as an assistant, use it in the way that you think you might in the real world in the future. So that's actually my last slide. I'm just going to pause here. Are there any questions? Joe, I don't, if you think I missed anything from it, you have completed this class. I don't know if you have any like words of wisdom for the students in here.
Yeah, no, it's very useful. And like you said, we're all technically able, but the communication side is what's going to get you a job and what's going to really set you apart and help you out throughout your career. So yeah, just pay attention. This tool for you to use for your future. So use it as you should, I'd say. So
Very
yeah.
cool. Yeah, if there is nothing else in the chat window, I think I'm just going to give it a minute here. Okay, so yeah, there's a question here. Is Joe a TA? Should we contact him first prior to Professor Shutsky? You're welcome. Why don't you do this? Based on my situation, and Joe, why don't you drop your email into the chat window if you don't mind? Why don't you copy both of us? Joe's definitely going to help me with grading and a few other things that we'll be doing in this class, and can probably answer some basic questions, I would think. Especially here, because I don't know what my next, 7 to 10 days are going to look like exactly. I just want to mention also, if you did join late, I've mentioned we're obviously doing this online. We're going to be doing Wednesday online. Next week is a little bit up in the air. I have a pretty strong suspicion we will have to move next Monday and next Wednesday online. I feel badly about that. For some of you, you're probably like, yeah, that's awesome. I would strongly prefer we be in person. But the bottom line with that is make sure you are watching your email because that decision, I probably won't make that decision until Saturday when I kind of have a better idea in terms of how I'm feeling. So Jacob, yeah, thank you for asking the question. Joe's also working with me on a couple of like AI related projects and some other things. So yeah, he's a great resource. Joe also presented his senior design project a couple of weeks ago for a group of industry people. And then I noticed put a LinkedIn post up on his LinkedIn profile, which I'm assuming maybe was enhanced slightly because of BSE 308. And Joe, I saw like a lot of people engaging with that. So that's the kind of thing we hope you all will do in the future. Okay, if not, have a great rest of the week. Be looking for another email from me. That video will be posted up into module 1.2 for what we would normally do on Wednesday. And again, that assignment will be due Friday at 11:59 p.m. And that's an assignment that's super cool. I really look forward to grading those and having a look at those. All right, have a great one, everybody. Thank you for participating today. I appreciate it. And Joe, thank you for being on. I really appreciate that as well.
Yeah, of course. We'll keep in touch.
All right, see you
All right.
later.
See ya.